Thoughts of the day. We don't know how to love madly anymore. The risk is said not worth the reward. We settle wholeheartedly and just meddle. We've lost touch with our inner self, too worried about a perceived perception. Our madness and ego too bruised to let go. We're pragmatically too rational when it comes to matters of the heart, because we simply do not listen to its beat. The heart, not just a piece of meat. We listen to the world as it dictates how we should love, who we should love, and how love should be. There are no shoulds in love. Love is love, nothing more, nothing less. Love truly madly with your entire being. Life's too short to love soft and weak. Go all in. Love hard. Love who, what you want. Love everything. Say, I love everything. It's okay. I love you. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Rosie Acosta, and I'm so excited to be here today with Ruben at the Live Through Love headquarters, and he just interviewed me for his podcast. We went deep today. I mean, we really went heart-centered, love first conversation. We talked about authentic relationships, people showing up. We talked about the things that scare us. We talked about everything. So I'm so excited for you to listen to this conversation.
You obviously clearly live through love.
I really do.
All right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at that outfit.
This is hashtag not an ad.
Can I order one of those?
I don't think that you can get something exactly like this, but you can order one.
Oh, I'm going to need the info.
Yeah. You can go to rubenrojas.com, or do you have livethroughlove.com too?
I do.
You can go there. You can check out all the swag. It's really cool, actually.
Awesome.
The message of living through love is one that I hold true to my own ethos. So I really buy into it. You know,
Yeah.
I try to promote as much as I can.
Well, I think radically loved is your version of live through love.
Yeah.
And you just released this book, You Are Radically Loved. You know, a couple years ago, you had me on your podcast and we went pretty deep on self-love and all these topics. This wasn't even like in the...
I think it was there. It just wasn't right now yet. Yeah. Do you remember what we talked about? We went deep.
I do and I don't.
Yeah.
But we will link it.
Yeah, we'll link it. It was, it actually left a really, not only because I'm like, this is my fam, you're like my family. Don't you remember we're like, are we related? Because I feel like the resemblance can be, we can pass as relatives, right?
Yeah, we can, a little bit.
So I just remember it was, man, like we went deep really quickly and I knew I'm like, oh, this is my people, you know, because that's, to me, where the aim is always to live, especially if you're living through love. If you're really honest about a message that you're presenting to the world that is genuine and authentic to you, and I don't want to play out those words because I know how I feel about the word authentic sometimes.
You know, it is a loaded buzzword.
It is. And you know what? I think today, since we're in sacred space, I think that we can go there, you know? I think a lot of people like to say that they live their life rooted in this love ethos, but I feel like a lot of the times it's just lip service and people don't really show up in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, we were just having that conversation.
We
right?
were.
You know, it's I was having this other conversation about, you know, hoping and wishing and dreaming. And we're all doing the best that we can. And we genuinely believe that we're living through love or acting through love or being radically loved or even self-love. And I think it really comes down to looking in the mirror and just asking yourself, am I being true to myself? Am I putting on this mask of what this love looks like and what the world wants to see?
Mm-hmm.
And then behind closed doors, or when, shit hits the fan,
Yeah.
you're being
asked for something.
You don't show up.
Yeah. What is that? Have you ever done that? Let me ask you this, because a lot of times we can sit here and accuse people of like, oh, you didn't show up for me. Can we curse on this? I don't know if we can. Okay. But can you, we can point the finger at this person didn't do this. They said this, they're inauthentic. But have you ever experienced that for yourself? Have you ever been that person that didn't show up for somebody?
I can't say 100% that it's never not happened.
Okay.
But what I can say that I show up more times than not dramatically. Like it's probably like 9.9 out of 10. And the reason why I know that is because, you show up, you do things with no expectations. Eventually stuff happens. Just being in service, and you're like, oh, I did that and it led to this. That's super cool. That's the universe giving back to us. That's love re-energizing us. But sometimes you're like, you know what? I could use this down the line for when I truly need something. And maybe I can go in and say, hey, I helped you out X, Y, and Z. I'm not trying to keep score here, but I could really use a hand.
Yeah.
And then I'll take it personally, or I'll get let down. Like, it's not even a big ask.
Yeah.
It's like, can you share this as a story?
Yeah.
24 hours that it lasts, you know? So it's really tough. It's really hard for me to say no.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I know more times than not that I have done it. Mm-hmm. And though most of the time, if I don't do it, it's because I can't get behind it. It doesn't feel good to me. It's
do you say no to the person, or do you
Oh,
say
I don't
no?
I don't just ghost if that's
okay.
No.
That's
No,
my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I know that's but I'll say like, I can't really get behind that, or I'm happy to connect with someone that may be into that. But I don't just ignore. And the reason why I don't is because I know what that feels like. And I don't like it happening to me. So if I do that to someone, then it's just this whole vicious circle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awful. It doesn't feel good. Mm-mm. And I say that because I will absolutely call myself out. I know I could remember now a handful of moments where I've done that. And it didn't come from a malicious place. It genuinely came from a place of, life happens. I had a friend, author friend, who had asked me this was years ago. She was asking me for a quote for her book, and she said, oh yeah, this is the due date, whatever. And I totally forgot about it because life happens. And I had it as an unread email in my inbox for like weeks and weeks and weeks. And I'm like, oh, I got to do that because I wanted to give it my attention. And then the time passed and it never happened. And then her book came out, and then I remembered, oh shit, I never gave you that quote. And I emailed her, and I was completely sorry. And I'm like, you know what? I apologize. I totally space, like truly, I hope that, we're good, and that I will do everything in my power. I had her on the podcast. Like I did my best to try and make up for that. And now that I'm in this position where I've got my book and I went through the process of how hard it is to ask people for something, like I have so much more compassion for that. And I'm learning for myself how certain actions that you might think are innocuous might affect somebody else differently. And I think that you and I are the same type of heart-centered beings, right? We're always thinking about other people. We're always wanting to show up 1,000% and really give people our truest version of ourselves. But I also am human, and so are you. And I think that I still am, what I was saying earlier is that I'm still heartbroken when I do have those experiences of people not doing a short Instagram story that's going to last 24 hours, that it's like, it would mean so much to you, right? It would mean so much for this person to show their support. And if they don't, what do? You let it go and you process it. And I always like to think, okay, people get busy. You don't know what's going on in people's lives, especially right now. There's a lot of things going on in the world. And one of my author mentors told me because I was having a moment, right? He said, nobody else is going to care about your book launch right now but you. Nobody's going to care as much as you do, right? Like, this is your baby. This is your work. Of course, for you, it's all encompassing. It's 24/7. The rest of the world is involved in their own 24/7. And that just put things into perspective. I'm like, oh, okay. So I won't then take it personally if X, Y, and Z doesn't happen. I understand that. And it gives me a little bit more of that, okay, like space and compassion for other people. And, you know, but like my hood side, my East LA side, it's like, I had your fucking back. Like, what? Yeah, hoops out. I'm just like, what? Like, you're not showing up for me. Like, how I grew up, you're ride or die. Like, ride or die means it's not just a hashtag that you put on your like reel. It's like legit, you know, people are your ride or die. They're going to show up for you. They're going to drive to Book Soup and get all of your autographed copies of your book. Like, they're going to post about it. They're going to have you on their podcast. They're going to show up for you, you know? So I don't know. I think it's kind of an interesting energy. And the reason why I think it came up too, because of your whole message and the whole idea of living through love. It's like, okay, what do you do when you're in that situation, when you're feeling just like, what I was saying is I don't want this to jade me, right? I don't want it to change the way I show up for people. And I obviously at my core, I am who I am, and I'll just be that person forever. But it does create this hardness inside where it's like you kind of build a little bit of that, like, okay, thicker skin.
Where you're conditioning yourself and creating conditions.
Yes.
And the more you put on, the thicker that wall gets. You're like, I did so much work to break this wall down. And here I am putting parameters and conditions and instructions.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful example because, again, live through love is about practicing.
Yeah.
It's not easy. That's what I tell everyone every single time. It is so much easier to look at the world and be like, wow, World War III is about to start.
Yeah.
Why does it matter what I do? Let me sit on my couch and eat potato chips or whatever your thing is.
I love that you and I both go to that place where we like hit the fuck it button. We want to just gorge.
Yeah.
Because I know you talk about that.
Pizza on a pizza.
Yeah.
But every day it's like, we take things personally. Are we victims, or were we unworthy of that? Like, we can have all these conversations that a lot of people have. We're all mirrors of each other. So you went through a very specific example. I went through an example, and I was talking to someone else about that example. We felt the same way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we're not worthy. Doesn't mean we were rejected. It doesn't mean we're not good enough. But it's so easy to say we're all those things. And then we don't want to ask for help again.
Yeah.
So taking practice of like, okay, how am I going to look at this through love? They were busy. They forgot. You know, if it's not in my calendar, like in it, I'll forget. And I'll be like, oh, it wasn't in my calendar. We had a call or we had a meeting. My bad. No calendar invite. Oh, okay. And I take responsibility for that. But even my wife, I'm like, you got to put it in my calendar. I got to put it in her calendar or it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think having that mindful approach too of, you're talking about giving that self-compassion where you're accepting the fact that you maybe don't remember things all the time and you're creating a structure for not being that person, right? To not be in a mindless state and be more present. So I think that's really important. And I think that what you're saying is bringing up the same idea in regard to having that compassion for other people, right? And thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe they're just a forgetful person, or maybe they had every best intention, or, you know, it was interesting because during this process, there's a lot of stuff going on. Everybody's going through it. You know, I learned this through COVID because people had different experiences. You know, I had friends that were really struggling and having a really, really hard time going through depression, like having a really hard moment. I know I was going through a hard time. I know you went through a hard time with jobs that you lost and stuff. And for me in the beginning, like all of my sponsors went away. Like it was a scary time, right? That the beginning was really scary. but towards the end for me, like it ended up being a great year. Like I had the best, it was almost like the most fruitful experience of my life, but for somebody else it wasn't. And I think understanding that, and not to say don't appreciate your own blessings or your own life or your own joy, but to have that space for the other. And I think that that's what we're missing a lot of the time, is having that space, that different perspective, that ability to want to understand what somebody else is going through. I'm not saying you have to agree with it, just because like love is not a zero-sum game. Just because I love this person doesn't mean I don't love that person, or because I agree with them doesn't mean I don't agree with you. It's not a zero-sum game. It's all-encompassing. It's the unison of everything. It's the union of all. And so it's like you were saying, it's a practice. I say that all the time in the book. It's like we practice because we forget. That's why it's called a practice, because we forget. Tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up and you're going to have the best intentions. You know what it's like to feel good, to meditate, to have a morning ritual. And that one little thing's going to throw it off. Or, you have like a not good night of sleep because of your child, and it's going to throw things off. And you're going to forget that, oh, right, I have to go back to my routine because that's what makes me feel good, or to create that space. It's part of what makes us human and interesting. And yeah.
Yeah. And practice, workout, exercise, training, education. There's all different names of the same thing. And what we're really trying to do is like, if you go running and go running and go running and you're training for a mile time, you started at 7 minutes, you end at 6 minutes, you had a 60-second improvement, but you trained to get to that point. Why is it that we forget to train to have compassion for ourselves, or living through love, or looking at it the lens of that, or empathy, or whatever? That's also practice. And it doesn't mean we do forget. And it's all about, how do we shift quicker?
Yeah.
Yes, get pissed off. We're humans. Freak out, scream, yell, curse, say fuck a million times. But you can easily start, it took me this much shorter to get back to center, to get back to self, to be okay again, to breathe into it.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when, I was this area of time when I was depressed, and I don't know how long I was depressed for, a year, 2 years. But now it's like, there's days where like, I had about 48 hours of depression this days, but that doesn't mean that I'm in this whole woe is me situation, but I can get out of it quicker.
Yeah.
And we could do that with everything.
Yeah. It really is about the types of impressions that you've created in your life and in your mind. You can call them habits. I call them impressions because in yoga, there's a Sanskrit word that is called samskaras, and they're the mounds at the bottom of the lake. And there are these impressions that we create. Samskaras. Samaskaras.
No, but I'm saying that reminds me of now some scars. All these scars are, I just took it to scars.
Interesting. Because it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Your scars, your war wounds, those are things you build upon or you can hide behind.
Yeah.
That's what it triggered that. That's
wow. That's interesting. I like that too. We get to make up our own definitions here because that's what we do. Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah. And those, think about them like those deep grooves, neurological pathways, that's what we're accustomed to doing. So in those 48 hours that you had, if you're used to just, creating this epic drama of things, I'm that way, right? So it could be, everything is great. You get that one bad thing. Oh my goodness. Like I almost got hit by a car. The car that's like 2 blocks away. That car almost hit me. I've done that before. I'll go for a target
on my back.
Yeah. It's like, this is going to be one of those days. Right. And then it's like, boom, it all starts to go. The brain starts to corroborate because you want to be right. And I think that everything that you're saying is true. We create these routines in order to corroborate what we believe. And for some people, maybe that are watching this or listening to this are saying, okay, yeah, but how do I get to that center that Ruben's talking about? How do I get back to that place of equanimity or that place of balance? And it's not easy for a lot of people. It can be really, really difficult. And I think the first thing is to think about your desire to get there, right?
How bad do you want it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you make the comparison of physical training, because with physical training, we have the external validation of seeing gains, right? It's like you can see the gains, you can see the progress. With the internal stuff, the reason why it's not as popular is because we don't see it. So it's easy to put our air quotes self-care on the back burner, or our internal, or our self-love on the back burner, because we don't see the gains.
It's invisible.
Yeah. And so it's not as excitable. It's not as attractive for us. Even
Takes faith.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's your relationship to faith? Can we talk about that?
We could. That could be a whole nother conversation.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just curious, because for me, it's been, people think that I'm like a super religious person, or they think no, not religious. I'm sorry. They think I'm a very faith-based individual, and I am, but it's only because I'm not, if that makes sense. It's like I had to sort of navigate my way to what I believe, and what, like, the stem of faith for me is love. I mean, that to me is like God, it's everything. That's what it is for me. But I'm just, the reason why I bring it up is somebody said this to me once, and it really resonated. And I'm still thinking about this years later, and I'm still trying to come up with an answer. He said, if you are somebody that has full faith, if you say you're completely a faith-based person, what happens in those moments where you doubt something? Do you go straight to, oh, like God has it, like she'll take care of me, or they will take care of me, or whatever? Or do you go into, why is this happening? Is there even a bigger force out there? Like, do you question? And if you question, that means that you have wavering faith, right? So that kind of bothered me, because I'm like, no, I can be both. I can have both. I can be fully committed to what I believe in my ethos, and have a human moment, and have the experience tragedy, experience loss, and question, why is this happening? What is the reason? And sometimes there's no answer for that, right? So I always like to ask people, especially people that really live a heart-centered life of love. It's like, what is your relationship to faith, and what do you think that that's true? Do you think it's either you have faith, period, and it's just like it is what it is, or do you feel like what I said and it's both?
I think it's both. There's a balance, because is anything really truly finite? As human beings, I mean, if you believe in God, we were made in his image. We are given free will and choice. In that, there's curiosity and intuition and questioning and all these things. So how can faith be so finite that you can't question it? And if you couldn't question it and it was just unwavering there all the time, then nothing else matters. It's just faith's got it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not clear cut
Yeah.
like that. I think it's a belief. It's like believing in love, or universal energy, or God, and spirituality, and all these things.
Yeah.
And if you apply it to anything, can you say, I have 100% faith that a human's going to have a human reaction? That you can say without a doubt, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
What you don't know is, like, are they going to act this way or this way?
Right.
Oh my God, I just messed up. Is my boss going to freak out and fire me, or sit me down? We're going to have a constructive powwow and forgive me.
Right.
So it depends on how you apply it. And humans are meaning-making machines. So the way I really look at it is, am I looking at this from fear or love? And what are all the meanings under those two pillars, right? We're like, I'm really happy right now. I'm boisterous. I'm blissful. I'm joyous. That just means I'm feeling love.
Yeah.
And over here, if you're in fear, you're like, I'm angry. I'm upset. I'm worried. I'm stressed out. Okay, so you're feeling fear. But we want to define everything so much. Why can't we just be like, okay, I have faith that I'm feeling love right now, or I have faith that I'm feeling fear right now. And what can I do with that?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's great. That's probably the best explanation I've heard yet.
Oh,
yeah. No, I like that a lot. because I feel like it gives room and space. And I really believe that that's more of what we need, is to have that dialogue of, it can be this and, as opposed to the finite result that a lot of us, the brain wants to categorize, and it wants to create that finality. It wants to know, is it this or that?
Well, we want to be right.
Of course.
Which then validates us, gives us purpose, gives us whatever that feeling is.
Yeah. Endorphins.
Endorphins. All of it. All the things. Yeah. Gives us the warm and fuzzies. But, you know, at the same time, it's just okay to not know what's happening. And then we have our own agendas, and we're always trying to put our agenda on other people. So it's like, why can't we make our agendas our agenda?
Yeah, because we're just always wanting to corroborate the story, and we're wanting to get that validation from everybody else. I mean, look, for me to say that I would love to sit here and say, oh yeah, no, I don't need validation from anything or anyone. But that's not true, right? That's
Rosie, you're amazing. This book's amazing. I have you on here to show the world how amazing you are. Yes, we want to feel love, and we want to feel all those things, because what? That is re-energizing you. That's giving you energy and putting love back in your love tank to be able to do what you do.
Right. Which is to spread more love.
But you're coming from a place of love and not ego or...
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about that, because I think it's important to know the difference, because I see it in our world. I see people promoting love, and there is a little bit of that disingenuous sentiment where I'm like, are you really though? Because this doesn't feel like love. It feels like you're trying to get me to go through your funnel, which is fine. You know, I'm just telling the truth, but I'm not invalidating that, because I think entrepreneurs, obviously we're all entrepreneurs here. I respect that to some level, but I feel like there's a certain way of utilizing self-love, love in general, as a way to spread a message of this is for everyone, right? So it's hard when I see somebody saying this is for everyone that can pay $10,000 for it. Because I'm like, that's not for everyone then. You know?
No, because I don't have $10,000 for that ebook.
I mean, I'm not.
But I'll say this.
I'm not able to go to that mastermind.
I'll say this. You know. Previously I've been a personal trainer, and there's coaches and life coaches and things. Paying something for something keeps you accountable. Money is painful. You earn it. You give it away. You move with it. So there is some intentionality if you're putting it in something that's going to give you a return. So if they got you to sign up for 10K, it's up to you to do the work and apply it and make it work for you. Most cases, that's not what's happening. Right. And then it's like, oh, I got suckered. But did you?
Right.
And at the end of the day, ask yourself, if you're that entrepreneur, am I trying to do this to put myself out of business? Meaning you've cured the world and they all love themselves now.
Or... yeah, it's like what the accounts out there that are designed to cultivate fear and anxiety. I'm designing fear content to keep you addicted because you think that somehow I have the answer to this really atrocious thing that I'm talking about.
Now we're talking politics.
I mean, I'm not going to go there because I'd stay away. I just don't fuck with that at all. I just don't have the time for it, and I don't like going in there. It's just, for me, I'm like, I love you all. Like, I have love for everybody, and it's just a fucking bear that I'm not going to poke.
So someone once asked me, I was talking about, I talk about the news a lot, and like, we're served a buffet of fear, no matter how you're looking at it. We're not pretty enough. We're not fit enough. We're not rich enough. We're not this, that, successful, whatever and then on the news, you're not safe. There's rapes and murders and wars and racism and pandemics. All these things are real, but it's sensationalized because at the end of the day, we're humans, and we love to like, oh yeah, let's eat the popcorn. Let's watch this, because it triggers all those things inside of the hormones and whatever's going on. It also validates like, okay, well, I'm safe. It's not affecting me here. But what this person asked was like, why don't you think they show more love or feel good stuff on TV? I'm like, because it doesn't sell anything. And it's a quicker reaction. And people don't really go, hey, did you see that cute puppy video? When I see it, I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. But you don't really share it.
Yeah.
You know, something that was shared a few times the other day was like someone was crossing the street and an SUV ran the guy over. And I'm like, this is real? And I watched it like 3 times, like, whoa, like, and that goes all over and it's getting millions of views. I'm like, why is that being shared?
Yeah. No, I saw some awful things on TikTok before I curated my feed, because you can do that on TikTok. I'm a huge TikTok fan right now. I'm really into it because it's like showing me content that I want to see. But in the beginning, I was like appalled at what was on there similar to that. And look, I grew up with my uncles watching these like really awful documentary. I don't know if you know these like films. They're called like Faces of Death.
I was just thinking you were going to say that. I'm like, really? Faces of Death. She's going to say that. Yes.
And it's like, and look, he's smiling. I'm literally like, they would watch. And I'm like, no, can you imagine you're a dad? Would you let your son?
I never watched them. I heard about them. Like they showed people getting quartered and all kinds of.
Oh yeah.
Like,
it's like, I'm literally like, gonna like, I got to do some tapping because it's traumatizing, you know, especially for kids. But again, it's the sensation. It's that type of stuff that people want to watch. It's the video of the guy getting run over. You know, it's like that type of energy is insidious to our being, because as much as, yeah, we want to see when it says, if you click here, there are going to be graphic images. So enter at your own risk. You can't not click the button. You know, I'm really into, which freaks like half of my listeners out, but I'm into true crime, like super into it. I feel like I was a detective in a past life. Like I have a lot of students in law enforcement that, you know, so to me, it's not necessarily that the gore or anything like that. It's like, I enjoy the discovery process of figuring things out and just seeing the behind the scenes of how people go through solving these crimes, you know, and just the reality of the world is that, yes, we live in a place where people do awful things, but we also live in a place where people are doing beautiful things all the time. And just going back to your point, Ruben, with the cute puppy videos. And I'm like, to me, that's my feed. You know, I'm like watching pottery videos. I'm watching like really emotional, like the baby hears for the first time, like, you know, watch his reaction. That's what I like to see. But at the same time, by no means am I trying to bypass the fact that we do live in a world where there's a lot of intense energy. And I feel like it just all has to do with us practicing. And instead of allowing ourselves, we forget how much power we have. Like I'm being fed information. I'm allowing somebody to feed me information because I have this device that I am holding up to my face, and my will is directing my motor neurons to push the button like Instagram, and I am making that deliberate choice.
Why don't we take responsibility for our actions? Look at, there's
Tweetable
a lot to
moment.
be said.
If I was Oprah, I'd be like, tweet, 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 tweet.
And you get a book right here, Radically Loved. No, but you can say a lot if you look at someone's explore page and you see what's in there. For me, you just see clothing, sneakers, and all these little like funny baby videos now. Like,
yeah, it's cute.
Just funny, very baby videos. They're really funny. But still, I don't know. Is there a void inside of us? What are we avoiding dealing with that we're trying to fill with all these other things that then say, oh, I'm feeling good about myself because that's not me, or that's not me, or that's not me. And like, okay, that's true. Like what my wife and I watch versus what some other people watch, this is no judgment on what's watching, but everyone watches different things for different reasons. Like I love going to the movies and seeing Marvel movies and things like that, because I grew up as a huge comic fan, as an artist. I think it's magical, but it's just so fantastical and way out there.
Yeah.
Right? I don't watch horror. Not my cup of tea. Not because I'm afraid of the gore or anything. I'm like, I just don't need to see that stuff
I
or
don't
feel
either.
that way.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
like, I know there's enough bad in the world.
Yeah.
Like murder mysteries and things like that. I like that kind of stuff, but that's like real.
Yes.
But then you see horror and you're like, wait, someone thought of that, which means someone may actually go do that. Like, I don't even want to think that.
Oh my goodness.
That's just not my jam.
Yeah.
But you know, if I stay in a hostel in Europe, I want to know that I'm safe.
Oh my God. This is just, no, I totally agree with you with what we consume and the level to which it affects us, whether we're aware of it or not. And look, there's a lot of judgment, right? People are like, oh, how could you watch this? Or how could you consume that? Or you listen to this music or whatever. And at the end of the day, I think it has more to do with what is it filling within you? Like what you said, what void are you trying to fill?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're trying to anchor into yourself? And I think it's hard being human, you know? It really is. It's a tough, and I think that's why we need love. That's why we need each other. That's why we need to be able to feel safe with each other. And I don't think we feel safe. You know, we're everything we're being fed is you're not enough. You're not enough. You should be really afraid. And everyone's against each other. So what are you supposed to do with that? You know, what are you supposed to, how do you resolve that? And I think that having the desire to break free from that paradigm, so to speak, it gives us an opportunity to at least begin to examine and make different choices.
Mm-hmm. I think the hard thing there is, one, you could become agoraphobic. So that's how you can just stay away from everything.
Yeah.
Or it's just breaking free means, are we going to leave back friends behind? We outgrow people. We can move forward. Like hurt people, hang out with hurt people. Look at who you're hanging out with or what you're doing or what is feeding what and where's it going. And if you're questioning any of that, like really start examining it. And like my wife and I, you know, have conversations. We find new friends and old friends, and it's a beautiful thing. You never, now as new parents, dude, the whole friends things are going to change again because we're like, oh, we need
friends with kids
because at least we'll be friends. Because later, this is what a lot of parents are telling me. Your kid is going to make friends with a kid, and that means you're going to have to be friends with that kid's parents. You don't know what you're going to get into, but now it's your child, and you're like, okay, but that stuck with me. It's like, okay, so no wonder people are being all crazy going to certain schools and this and that and the other. You never know what's going to happen or where life's going to take you. Yeah. But we can create awesome content. Or at least we think it's awesome.
Yeah, we think it's awesome. That's all that matters.
We could talk about love, and hopefully it resonates with people. And what I like to ask you is like, how do you 2 or 3 ways that people can live through love through your practice radically? How would you define live through love? Or how would you tell someone, this is how I do it? Yeah,
this is a great way of living, I think, just in general, living through love. So that in itself already is like amazing and everybody should do it. But I think if I had to give 3 things, the first one would be to pause and breathe and just let your shoulders relax. Very basic. It's like, just stop. Whatever is happening in the world, I suffered from debilitating panic attacks. So to me, it's the pressure, it's the not breathing, it's the contraction, it's the mental trauma that's like, it puts your body into the state. So the first thing is just, let's just do it right now. Take a deep breath in. Nice long exhale. Good. And then just let your shoulders relax your throat, the muscles of your face. Take a nap. He's falling asleep. So that's the first thing I would say. Ruben, you can stay there. I could already
feel it, like just right here.
Yeah. So that's the first thing I would say. The second is to be open, to just really allow yourself to, and whatever that means, you know, be open to, here's a good one, because you're asking me specifically. Be open to the idea that maybe you're wrong. I had to deal with that doozy this morning, and it wasn't fun.
That's a tweetable moment.
Yeah. Tweet, tweet, as Oprah would say. Oprah, if you're watching this, tweetable moments right here. Have us both on. We're hilarious. The third is to remember that we're only here for a short period of time. Like I do sometimes often go into a morbid state of thinking, but I have to remind myself, like, anything can happen. I was driving to I did a virtual book launch party because, just everything that's going on, it just felt like the safest bet.
Mm-hmm.
And it was everything, we're doing it at this production studio. It was like a whole thing. We're only about 45 minutes away, and I was going to be there 30 minutes before. Well, we get on the freeway and the time is just increasing and increasing. Well, my ETA was 30 minutes past the time we were airing. So I was just consumed with anxiety. You're on the freeway, you're stuck. We're in a parking lot. I'm like, there's an accident. I'm looking online. I'm trying to figure it out. We passed by this terrible, terrible, fatal car crash. And in that moment, it was like an instant experience. I'm like, wow, somebody just died. Like that person, I'm like, I could get emotional, but like that person's not coming home. And here I am, stressed out about going to a book launch party about radical love. And the universe has a funny way of putting things into perspective. And that moment I was like, oh, totally calm. I'm going to log in via Zoom. So I just did it in the car until I got there. It was kind of hilarious, but it was the constant reminder that we don't know. And it's the beauty and the curse, right, of not knowing.
Perspective.
Yeah. That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.